My fellow South Africans, my fellow Democrats, it is with a full heart, profound gratitude, and immense pride that I speak to you today for the final time as the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance. It was in late 2019 that the members of this great organization first entrusted me with the responsibility to rebuild the DA, a mandate that you renewed twice in 2020 and 2023. We've done so much together, friends. Thank you. The party that we inherited in 2019 was on its knees, polling at 16%, divided and riven by a crisis of confidence. The media confidently proclaimed the death of the DA. But together, the people in this room refused to accept decline as our destiny. And as that famous saying goes, kyk hoe lyk ons nou. Because as I so often said on the campaign trail, that there was nothing wrong with the DA that couldn't be fixed with everything that is right with the DA. And together, we set out to prove it by navigating our party through the unprecedented turbulence of the COVID-19 pandemic and into a local government election where we got back to the business of growth. After we had stabilized the party, we met in this exact same venue on the 2nd of April, 2023, when we embarked on a mission that changed the history of the DA and the history of South Africa. On that day, we embarked collectively on our moonshot mission to transform our wonderful DA into a party of national government, fit for purpose in the new reality of coalition politics. And just 3 years later, our presence in this hall today is a living testament to the spectacular success of that mission. Not only is the blue machine stronger and healthier than ever, not only are we now routinely polling close to 30%, but for the first time in South Africa's history, and for the first time in our party, the DA now co-governs the Republic of South Africa. And that's what we pledged. That's what we pledged to the citizens of this wonderful country at our last Congress. And that is exactly what we've delivered. Democrats, it's important to reflect fully on the scale of what we have accomplished together. The DA traces its roots all the way back to 1959, when a small group of brave South Africans broke away from the United Party to form the Progressive Party. They stood alone in Parliament against the full force of apartheid. Helen Suzman, for years, was often the only voice of conscience in that chamber. They were ridiculed, they were marginalized, they were threatened, but they never wavered for a moment in their belief that South Africa belonged to all who live in it. As recently as 1994, the DA's predecessor was still a party that enjoyed the support of just 1.7% of the population. For almost the entire history of our cause, it was unthinkable that the torchbearers of South Africa's liberal tradition could ever enter the union buildings. But Democrats, we are the generation that changed history. We took our moonshot and we achieved what had been unthinkable for decades. For the very first time, the people of South Africa now have a true political alternative, because we have proven that the DA is not only ready to govern a few municipalities and provinces, but that we are ready to get all of South Africa working. Through our work in the Government of National Unity, we have proven that the DA delivers for all the people of South Africa, across urban and rural areas, in townships and in suburbs, in big cities and small dorpies. South Africans are experiencing the change that the DA has brought to the portfolios that we manage. In agriculture, we're opening up enormous new export markets, while systematically vaccinating our entire national herd against foot and mouth disease for the first time in our country's history. In home affairs, we're rebuilding the very foundation of the state, eradicating long queues and replacing paperwork and inefficiency with technological modernization at a scale never seen before. In basic education, we're safeguarding mother tongue education through regulations, while investing in the foundation phase learning and improving matric results. In public works and infrastructure, we're uprooting corruption and criminality, while transforming dilapidated government-owned buildings into public assets that serve public good. In communications and digital technologies, we're working to unlock equity equivalence to drive innovation and enhance digital inclusion. And in forestry, fisheries, and environment, we have saved fishing communities from destitution by restoring their access to the sea while ensuring sustainable economic development. Above all, DA ministers, deputy ministers, and our parliamentary chairpersons are fighting every single day to drive the economic reforms that our country needs, to unlock private investment, and to grow the economy and create jobs. And that is why we steadfastly fought against a destructive proposal to increase VAT in last year's budget. It's why we pushed government to act quickly to reduce the fuel levy in the face of exploding fuel costs. It's why we took court action against the economically destructive Expropriation Act, which has led the President to admit in his court papers that the Act is indeed unconstitutional. And Democrats, it's now only a matter of time before the court strikes it down. And that is why we continue to fight against the National Health Insurance, which has officially been put on hold through a court order. Every single day, in big ways and small, DA councillors, activists, MPs and MPLs are winning the battles against destructive policies in ways that were impossible before, because we now have a seat at the table. And the results speak for themselves. The clarity and urgency that the DA has brought to bear against the destructive policies in favor of economic reform has already led to South Africa's removal from the FATF grey list, our first credit ratings upgrade in 20 years, a doubling of economic growth, and the first signs of lower unemployment. Democrats, we've still got a long way to go to rescue South Africa, but for the first time in decades, our country is well and truly moving in the right direction. And make no mistake about it, the only reason why any of this is happening, the only reason we prevented a VAT increase, the only reason why we are fixing broken departments, and the only reason that our economy is showing signs of life is because the DA accomplished our moonshot mission to enter a national governing coalition. But the DA's work in national government also matters at another deeper level. For almost 70 years, our predecessors strove for a South Africa where all forms of ethnic nationalism would be replaced by a liberal, non-racial, governing alternative that regards citizens as individuals worthy of protection and empowerment. A country where every person enjoys access to the opportunities that they need to build a life, and where we could unite them in our diversity. Thanks to our Moonshot mission, South Africa has taken a major step forward to realizing the vision. The fact that a country as diverse as South Africa now has a multi-party coalition governing it, and it is increasingly anchored in our liberal reform agenda, is an astonishing national achievement, given our country's divided and violent past. Even in societies that are much less diverse, societies that are much more divided, coalitions routinely collapse over the kind of deep disagreements that our GNU continues to navigate. And that is profoundly important because it demonstrates beyond doubt that this country is capable of working together to pursue reform and growth. It is not yet at the scale we require, not by a long way, but the experience of the GNU so far demonstrates that, for the first time in South Africa's history, a future with the DA at its heart, united in our diversity, can solve common problems, and that is now within reach. This is also important, Democrats, beyond our own shores. Globally, we have entered an uncertain new era marked by growing division, populism, and violence. We're living through a moment in time where the timeless liberal values that we hold dear, freedom, fairness, opportunity, and diversity, are coming under the most sustained assault since the end of the Second World War. Illiberalism, at home and abroad, is on the march, and its defining feature is a retreat into populist and ethnic nationalism based on the belief that diverse societies are just doomed to fail. This rising global tide of scapegoating, othering, and ethnic division strikes at the very heart of who we are and the DA's political project. Because our party's core belief, dating all the way back to 1959, is that a country as richly diverse as South Africa can be made to work for all of its people. That a country home to people who have different skin tones, who worship different gods, who speak different languages, who love different people, and whose ancestors came from different places, is not doomed to collapse in endless conflict, but that it can succeed. And that it can succeed not in spite of its diversity, but it can succeed because of its diversity. And look at us, look at our diversity in this hall today. It's also clear that the rising global tide of populism is also lapping at our shores. The doomsday coalition that I warned about from the stage 3 years ago has now taken power in Gauteng. In KwaZulu-Natal, it's kept at bay by a single vote in the provincial legislature. Ethnic nationalism, anti-foreigner incitement, and a drive to exploit our country's problems to drive division are all manifestations of this growing illiberalism. At precisely the moment that the DA took our biggest step towards building a society where every person, regardless of their background, can look forward to a better future, we are confronted by new forces whose sole aim is to replace our inclusive vision with new forms of division, nationalism, populism, and hatred. And it is an agenda that we must reject, and we must reject at all costs, because, Democrats, it is the antithesis of who we are and what our predecessors fought for. And instead, if this is where the world is going, then our job as the DA is to ensure that South Africa is an outlier. While many places around the globe have swung towards extremes, South Africa is one of the few countries that today has a more moderate government, a more inclusive government, and a more diverse government than we had 2 years ago. The formation of the GNU is precious, and it is historic, and an opportunity to unite those who want to build a better country across all those old dividing lines of race, class, language, and religion. It's an opportunity that we must seize and build upon. We, the people of South Africa, and our government of national unity, are now the torchbearers of the future, keeping the flame alive for a world where difference and diversity are harnessed instead of weaponized. Now, this is not naivety, it's practical, because it is only through the values and principles of the DA that South Africa can ensure a prosperous future for all of its people. As I conclude my chapter as the head of the DA, it is fitting to quote the founding leader of our predecessor party, Dr. Jannie Steenhuisen, who famously said way back in 1959 that, I quote, "One day South Africa will be governed by our principles because it is the only way it can be governed," unquote. My fellow South Africans, that a party once consigned to irrelevance and ridicule now shapes the very destiny of South Africa is the legacy that I and we leave behind for the Democratic Alliance. For me, it is mission accomplished. I hand over the baton of leadership with immense pride and complete confidence. The DA today is stronger, larger, more relevant, and more influential than any time in our history. We're no longer a regional party or a perpetual opposition. We are a national force for reform, a party in government that is already making South Africa better. And Democrats, the road ahead will have challenges. It always does. But the foundations that we have built together are solid. The values we defend are timeless. And the mission to become the largest party in South Africa and build a country where every citizen has a fair shot, regardless of their background, remains as urgent as ever. So thank you. Thank you to you, to every member of the DA, for the millions of acts of kindness and support that you've shown to me through my leadership journey. Thank you for the honor of leading this great party. It truly has been the greatest privilege of my life. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my incredible staff that works in the leader's office, who've crisscrossed this country with me tirelessly. To all of you, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. And to my right arm, Una Christians, who's managed the admin in my office for so long. Thank you so much, Una. It's her 20th year of service to the DA today, 12 of which have been with me. And now the hard part. Thank you to my family. Thank you for the sacrifice that you've all made so that I could pursue our dreams together as the DA. Thank you for putting up with the long absences and the grumpiness when I got home after a long campaign day. My daughters are delighted that they won't be seeing their dad dancing on Instagram anymore. And finally, For anybody who may be wondering what I'll be doing next, aside from working night and day until we defeat foot and mouth disease, I will be doing what I've always done since I first joined this party after high school. I'll be side by side with all of you in this glorious blue machine, working in the trenches, supporting the next chapter of our history. I love my party, I love my country, and I will continue to serve them both with all of my heart and soul. Thank you. God bless you. God bless South Africa. God bless the DA.